Yay! All right. All right. Well, I thought that's what I would teach you guys how to make in the animation sequencer. Dave, since it's primarily me and you right now, you let me know if there's anything that you want to see in particular. Hopefully I know how to do it. But if you're cool with that, why don't we build this project from scratch? My plan is I'm going to take this live recording and then edit it in DaVinci Resolve and make an actual video for the channel on using the animation sequencer. But I thought since I'm going to spend my day doing that, or at least an hour or so, why not show you guys? Sound good? So Dave, have you ever used Unreal before? Just so I know, since I'm going to tailor this training to you. And if you've used Unreal, what's your level of comfort? Never, just reading and installed. Awesome, man. Well, then, you know what? I'm going to teach you as a newbie, and we'll start off by creating an entire project from scratch. So you've got the engine running, and I'm just going to move along at a training pace. But if you want to type in the chat that you want to have me slow down or cover something, let's see if we can make that work. But like I said, I'm going to try to take this live stream and put it into a lesson. So these are all the different projects that I have in Unreal. And this is the project that we are going to use today. Now, in order for you to make a project in Unreal, if you've never made a project or you want to make one from scratch, Dave, you're in for a treat. So let me show you what you would do. If you're from the Epic Games launcher, which looks like this, up in the top library tab is where you've got different versions of the engine. And today I'm going to be using Unreal Engine 5.4.1, which is an update that just came out a few days ago. And we're using that because it is the latest and greatest, and they did change the sequencer in 5.4. So you can launch from either of these buttons, and you can add more versions if you want up here. We don't need to do that, so I'll click cancel. But you can launch from here, or there's a default, excuse me, right up in the top. All right, so Dave, we're going to launch Unreal Engine 5.4, and then it would bring us to a menu where we'd be creating a project from scratch. So right here where I go new project, you would see this, and you're primarily going to work if you're creating like VR environments, which is my focus mainly for the channel these days. But I am today going to use a third-person template, and I hope that's okay with you. Let me know in the chat. So you just do a new project, go to games, you click on third person. Over here on the right, you would choose blueprint and just leave these settings, and don't turn on starter content because we're not going to use the starter content at all. And then you give the project a name, and you can't use spaces in your projects. So you type a name right there, and then you click on create. That's how you create a project. And by choosing one of these templates, what Unreal is doing is it's putting a bunch of assets and blueprints and other components all together in the project so that you can build pretty easily that type of environment. Does that make sense, Dave? All right, we got another person joined us, which is awesome. So that's what I did, and I created this project right here, and I called it Animation Lesson 2. Now, there's really nothing in this project at this time except for this base little template right there, and that's going to be really boring to animate that, so we're going to make a really cool environment. When I say we're going to make a cool environment, what we're going to do is we're going to use assets that are up in the Epic Marketplace. And once you launch the editor, there are two ways to get there, at least two ways. Under the window menu, there's a place called the Marketplace, Open Marketplace. What that does is basically spawns this window right here that I already have open. So the Epic Games Launcher serves as the same interface for the Marketplace. And we were just on the Library tab. So in this Marketplace is where you can get stuff. Now, because, Dave, you're completely new to Unreal and the Marketplace, I got some great news for you. You picked a good month to start because under this menu, free for the month, every month, I think it's correct me if I'm wrong, if anybody knows, but it's like the first Tuesday or first Thursday, something like that of the month, they release a set of free stuff. And what they released this month is this modular sci-fi indoor outdoor, normally $99, but it's free. And I'm just going to click into it to show you that when you look at content, I recommend that you see what is the supported engine version. So I made sure that they updated this project for version 5.4, which they did. I also sometimes peek at the reviews because this might tell me if this works or not in the environment. And notice this says, will you be able to make this compatible with Unreal Engine 5.4? And that was on May 8th. Today's May 9th. And I actually have it working in 5.4. So I don't know why that person doesn't, but maybe there's some compatibility issues or lighting issues. I don't know, but I have tested it and it works. Yeah. Okay, cool. I'm glad you get the free stuff every month. Just reading Dave's note. So those are all my projects, and this is all the free stuff that I have. And I want to add that environment to my game. You'll notice that when you build up the library, some of the stuff is add to project and some of the stuff is create project. This particular one is you are adding it to a project. So that project that I made as the template is where I will put that in. And again, from the marketplace, I've already downloaded this asset. I mean, you can do it if you want to follow along while you're watching this video. But if you notice when I click in it, it already says add to project. This used to say free. And so you already know how to do that, it sounds like. So I'm going to add this to the project. And I'm adding it to animation lesson 2, which is the current project I have open. And I'll choose add to project. It looks like they're using a rocky, swampy planet already that exists in the project. Do you want to replace that? I'm going to say yes, because I don't know if they altered that environment or texture or material at all. So I'm going to say yes. And the install failed. Interesting. Could be because I have it open. So let me close it. So I've closed my engine now, and I'll add to the project. And there we go. So by having, the application open and the project open, it didn't like that. So now I will launch the engine again, and we'll open that up. Your question is, do I know both VR models? And I'm not sure exactly what the question means. Do I know how to build VR environments? Yes. Let me show you what I've got here. Switch over to my camera. I've got the MetaQuest 3. I used to have the MetaQuest 2, so I've built for both of these. And so in terms of when you talk about VR, feel free to maybe rephrase the question. I do know how to not only build VR environments using the VR template, but I can take like this environment that we've created and I can turn it into a VR environment. So I'm just going to reopen that project. All right, it says new plugins are available. You can't see that on the right because I have a really wide screen. When I choose that, I just dismiss the message because I don't need to go see what it is. And then 83 changes to source content have been detected. Would you like to import them? And I'll say import, and it's bringing in those different environments. Yes, to your question. Have you ever had glowing landscape issues when rendering out? Yes, I have. And I always hope that in version 5.4 and newer versions that they fix all that stuff. But I sometimes don't know why those problems occur. I know there are some lighting issues that were addressed in 5.4 for VR, which I'm excited about because when I render it as an application, I package it up as an application, it was not working. All right, so now when I open the project and I'm looking at this environment, I'm not looking at the map that I actually want to be looking at. And this is a good teaching opportunity. So I'm going to do two things. One, this is the folder that it was added. And so I'm going to go to levels, and then I'm going to open up the landscape preview. That is the one that I want. And whenever you create, update your projects or add things that have multiple environments in it, like this one does, this has 3 different levels. Plus, I started from a template. So you should change that. And I do that by going up to the File menu, and I go to, the edit menu, go to Project Settings. And then if you go over on the left-hand side to Maps and Modes, you can change when the editor starts up what map you want. So I'm going to go to Level Preview here. And then the game default map, meaning when the game starts, which map, in case you're looking at a different one, Landscape Preview. All right. Close it, and I will save that. Yeah, good point about in the chat about the textures and stuff. I mean, I think a lot of people have to update their projects to support 5.4 and take advantage of some of the new capabilities. It's just not there. All right, so hopefully you guys are Star Wars fans. We're going to animate this environment. So that was completely free, by the way, right? Free. And now I want to grab some more stuff. So I'm going to open up my browser, and I'm going to go to a brand new tab. I want to get you guys familiar with Sketchfab. Sketchfab.com is a great other place for grabbing stuff. And in this particular case, I already bookmarked this so we could get here pretty quickly. I found this Lambda shuttle, and it's a 3D model by this guy, Kasra. And it's free, and I grabbed it. I already have it down here on my desktop, but I want to make sure that you guys know an important thing. This particular model has animation. It has an entire animation sequence as part of the model. It's a really cool one. So I download the GLB format because that way when I import it, it imports with all the textures properly on the model. I used to download using FBX for Unreal compatibility, but that I don't use that format unless I have to. So I downloaded you notice there's a 4K version, a 1K version. If we're designing for VR, we do want to be sensitive to the amount of stuff that we shove into our projects. But in this case, I'm running on the PC, and I'm not going to turn this into VR. So I just downloaded the 4K one. And I will put a link to the description to where this is. For those of you that are watching the recorded version and in chat, I am going to send you a link to that in case you guys want to grab it. All right, I closed my door. I guess I have my cleaning lady here, and she is vacuuming. So let's get back to it. The other asset that I downloaded was a Stormtrooper. And I believe I should spell that right. STORM. And I believe the one that I got was this guy right here. Now, another tip on Sketchfab. If you see the download right here, it's free. So that's how you know if it's free. Otherwise, you see a dollar sign. And so I went into the Stormtrooper and I downloaded the 3D model. And just like I did with the other one, I downloaded the GLB converted format that was set up. If it only has FBX, then grab FBX for Unreal. But if you see GLB, it's often good to get that. All right, so we've done that. Looks like Dave is lagging a little bit behind. No problem. It will probably take a while if you do import these things and get them down to your computer, but no problem. Okay, so over here on my desktop is the Lambda ship and the Stormtrooper. Now, you really want to be anal retentive when you are using Unreal. And if you've never used Unreal before, which I know some of you watching this live haven't, it seems, let me explain some things to you. This area over here, excuse me, called the content browser, is where all the content and resources are for the project that you're working on. Excuse me, I want to take a little drink instead of coughing for you guys. So think of this as your inventory. It's everything that you currently have available to you for making this project. When you need more stuff, you can go get it from the Epic Marketplace or from Quixel Bridge. You can choose import, and you can use the add button. And the add button, even things like add a feature or content pack, you can choose. So if I had picked like VR, but I wanted the code for like a third person to mesh into that, I can add that to my project. We're not going to do that today. We don't need to. But I just wanted you to see that you can add stuff through this way. You can import stuff, which is what we're going to do. And when I said about being anal retentive, I'm going to create a new folder. And I do that just by selecting the content folder. I right click and choose new, and we'll call this custom assets. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to drag the Lambda over here, ship, into custom assets. So I can import it that way. I'd like to tell you that I understand every one of these import settings. I don't. I have messed with some of them, especially as I've watched other tutorials. But the good news is, especially with this tutorial, just choosing the defaults and clicking on import works. But I do see some reasons that you might want to change these things when you bring it in, like what skeleton you want to apply it to. But I am not going to do that right now. There are some benefits, like when you bring in a character, like when I bring in the Stormtrooper to map it, but we won't do that. So I'm just going to pull that in, and you'll notice it adds in all the different things. It's got the skeletal meshes for the ship in different poses. They're essentially all the same in some way, but they are technically different assets. This is a skeletal animation, skeletal mesh rather, animation sequence, physical asset, skeleton. I'll be using the skeletal mesh, but the reason I like this one is it has a whole animation sequence. Then I'm going to do the Stormtrooper. So I just clicked back to content, and I'm going to my custom assets folder, and now I'm going to drag in the Stormtrooper. Coded particles, good shout out. It says just make sure that combined meshes is unselected. Okay, I don't think I have that selected, so here we go. Now I've got the Stormtrooper in my environment. Now you'll notice you get this warning. Now that I've increased my budget, texture streaming pool is over 112. This stuff would drive me crazy, and I would see this and go, wow, I'm really concerned about that. There's no problem. Oh, Stormtrooper link. How selfish of me. Yes, let's get you that link as well. Here we go. I will put that in the description for those of you that watch this video later, but I have just typed it into the chat. There we go. So when I see that stuff and it bothers me, I do find you can ask ChatGPT, but I'm just going to pull up my browser and open up a new tab and just ask myself, we'll do it in Google, how to get rid of the streaming, what does it literally say? Streaming pool. Pool error Unreal. And you'll find, really great tips and that type of stuff. So you can see add the following right here. I sometimes will watch a video if I don't know, but the console is down here in the lower left, and you can actually start typing in it and it will prompt you with the different ones. So like this is r.texture streaming. Let me put that over here. So I'll type r.texture streaming equals true. Well, we know it's already true, actually. I'll just type r streaming dot pool size equals, I'll go to 8,000. That get rid of it? No. Let's try again. Did I type it wrong? Pool size 8,000. There we go. I must have typed something wrong. My bad. Yeah, just reading chat. Yeah, I've been using ChatGPT a lot. I'm on version 4. I pay the $20 a month, and I find it very helpful for Unreal stuff. So now we've got rid of that error message that was just troubling me. And let's get started building with our animation. So I do want to just start off by putting a player start into the environment. I think this is where, like in the little trailer I showed you, that I had the ship land right out here in front. And I was saying that over on the left-hand side, this is where all the different content is for your project. And then on the top right, make sure I'm not cutting off my window for you guys. In the top right, those are the particular objects, actors, assets, whatever, all the different stuff that you've put into your level. And when you build an animation sequence, you actually have to put that stuff in your level. And we'll talk about this in a little bit, but one of the things that was a steep learning curve for me is, if I want to take this mesh like the shuttle and put it in my environment, and I'm just clicking and dragging it and dropping it in there, well, what if I don't want to see it in the beginning of the game and I want this animation sequence to show up later? You can put this anywhere in the level, and you can decide, well, maybe I just want to just put this someplace else. Kind of like, think of like Disneyland, how they have the back lot. You can stick stuff in your back lot that no one can get to or no one can see, and then you just call it to where you need, and we'll see how to do that. Up in the kind of center of the screen towards the right is the camera speed. And I'm going to change the camera speed to 3. That's what I like. Some people will go faster than that, but 3 seems to kind of work for me. So when I go in and out, that's the movement of my left mouse is forward and back and rotation. The right mouse click is up and down, and together is, the way I just drive this thing around. So there's my ship. It's a little big. It's a little frightening. Scary enough already. So let's make it smaller, and I'm going to resize it using the scaling tool right up here. Again, since I don't know all of your guys' level of Unreal, I'm just assuming there's some newbies that are watching this. And so as I use these different tools, that's how I can just rotate and decide where I want this. And I definitely don't want the wings in the ground, but we're going to put it about right here for now. So I'm just kind of blocking out the scene that the ship's going to land right there. And we'll later on have the stormtrooper. Now, what I don't know is, does this level already have a player start? So I'm going to come up to the top right in the outliner and type the word player. And sure enough, there is one. And when you select it, you can choose it and hit the F key, F like Frank, and that brings the focus of the viewport to that particular object. And I can either move that, or I'll just take this opportunity to delete it and show you how to add a player start, because I know that Dave was really new to Unreal. And so I'm just going to choose this and hit delete, and it's gone. And then what I can do is go back to where I want my player to start, which is on this landing right here, and add the player to that location. How do I do that? I'll come up to plus over here. There's so many ways to do so many of the same things, but this is the way to do it. And under basic, which are like, 7 items or something like that, just choose player start. And there it is, and it puts it right there. And if you ever have something too high and you want to make sure it's just right on the ground, you can raise it up and hit the N key, and it drops it right there. And I believe it's the green arrow is where the location is of the person when it starts. So let's do that. Hit start. And we're facing actually to my left. So my bad. It's not. It's then the red arrow. So I'm going to choose the player start, and I will rotate it just a tiny bit using that axis. And let's choose play again. And now we're looking the right way. Okay, we're looking at the ship. Now the concept for this one is I wanted to show you not only how to use the animation sequencer, which we're just about to dive into, but I also wanted to show you how to trigger an animation sequence. Now, I don't know if I've ever shared this with you guys, but I play a lot of Call of Duty, and one of the things I know in Call of Duty is they have cutscenes. And those cutscenes, I believe, are pre-rendered movies. I don't think they're rendered in real time. But because Unreal is so powerful in the engine, you can make animation sequences run right within the game. But you can also, if you're building something, you could also call a video file. And I think if we have enough time, we'll get to both of that today. So now that we have our player there and we have the ship, let's go back over to the ship. Remember I told you earlier that this ship has animation. So I'm going to choose the ship. And if you look down in the lower right area where the details are, so we've covered, this is where all the stuff is in our locker, if you want, for building our project. This is the stuff that we've put in this particular level. And then when we choose something like the ship, these are the details down here of that particular item. And if you notice under animation, you can click on general, actor, animation. That kind of like, divides up all the different stuff rather than looking at everything. But you could go in the search and type animation here and it would bring you to the animation stuff. But if I just click animation, it shows me all the animation properties. And I'm going to choose the animation for that ship. And I think I have to do an animation asset. And by choosing the drop down instead of an animation blueprint, the animation asset, I'm picking up the animation that is stored, if you will, within that object. Does that make sense, chat? And now I'm going to choose the Lambda shuttle animation. And notice its default set is to looping and playing, but I'm going to turn off looping. And don't forget that I did that, because if you leave that on, it just keeps playing and running and running. And we're only using this for an animation sequence. So let's hit play. And there's the animation running with the ship, which is coming in for what looks like a landing. And it's flying up there in the sky. So we're going to, for the animation sequence, what we're going to do is have the ship lower to the ground. So the person's like seeing this ship show up. And then we'll do a different camera cut. And the camera cut will show us and kind of zoom in to where the stormtrooper has appeared. And these two are having their little confrontation. What do you think of that idea? All right, so let's get to building that. Just as I said before, and we'll add music to it and everything, by the way, but just as I said before, under content, I like to create a folder for everything that I'm going to be working with in my project. So I'm going to add a new folder by right-clicking, and let's do custom music, because that's where we'll put the music. And let's make a folder for our animations. And I'll just call this one animations. So I've got all these folders, animations, characters, custom assets, where I put the ship and the stormtrooper, and my custom music. Talk about music in a second. You can use whatever music that you legally have obtained for your projects. But because I'm streaming this, I wanted to make sure that I got music that kind of has like that Star Wars Imperial March type soundtrack, but wouldn't get the video banned. So I grabbed something, and I'll show you how I did that in just a moment. Let's kill the simulator. All right. Let's lower this down a little bit, give ourselves a little more viewport room. All right, so there's the ship. Now when we want to build an animation sequence, these three buttons up here are what we use a lot when we build Unreal projects. This one is enabling us to add things into our environment. This one is to create blueprints. And this other one is to make a level sequence. Now, I've talked about this in other videos. The term map and level are synonymous. So when you hear level, think map. When you hear map, think level. So adding a level sequence is adding an animation to this particular level. All right. And I will choose add level sequence. It asks me where do I want to put it. I've already created an animations folder. So let me open that. And we're going to call this the arrival, because it's the arrival of the ship. And we'll save that. All right, Dave. Well, no worry that you're a little bit behind, but I'm just going to keep going. If you need me to back up a little bit or have a question, you can throw that in the chat. Try to get you there. But what I constantly do is change these tools right here. And if you notice, there's a little shortcut. It says select and rotate objects E, scale and rotate R. I recommended this in another video, but I'm going to show you, like in my Logitech G Hub mouse, my buttons right now are set up for my Call of Duty gaming the way that I like it to be. But you might want to think about, if you have a multi-mouse button, of mapping these buttons to the letters R, E, and W, which are right at the top above my fingers. And that's a little tip that if you just get familiar with that. I have not done that because I got a new mouse, but it's something I need to do at some point because I always forget, and I loved it when it was on my mouse. All right, back to the animation sequencer. So what you see now is there's a tab for the content browser and a tab for the sequencer. And the sequencer is a lot like DaVinci Resolve. You're a Warzone nerd too? Love that, yes. Your name is Yes. I'll be playing that tonight with my squad. Love that. So if you're familiar with like something like DaVinci Resolve, let me open this up since I've got you guys. I want to show you, if you've never done video editing, the sequencer is very analogous to a video editor. So I made this, oh, that'll get me in trouble. Let's open up the VR tutorial that I made for you guys. And that's a really big screen. And trust me on this. This will let you to not only get caught up with all your stuff that you're downloading, but this is a video editor. This is DaVinci Resolve, my favorite. And this is what I use for making the videos for you guys on YouTube. You notice how this editor right here has this stacking. There's an audio here, there's a video here, and a video above it. When this playhead is going across, let me mute the sound. So that's what it took to get it to work. And while this is playing, as soon as I get to this point right here, we'll see this video. And that's kind of like a camera cut in Unreal. So now we're seeing that video. And then when we get here, we'll see that video. And then when we get, I'll skip ahead, all the way out to here, boom, we're back to that. And those are all different layers. So if you think of video editing like the Unreal sequencer, this area will make a whole lot more sense of what's happening right here. Now I'm going to take the ship, which is right here. I'm just going to select it. And I can drag from the right side over into the sequencer this way. Or I can do add right here. And I can add an actor to the sequencer. So there are different ways to do that. And you can even type in the search box. Now, typically when I have something selected, sometimes when I click add, it actually has that already. But if I type LAM, there's the shuttle right there. Sorry, I clicked away. LAM. If I chose it right here, that'll put it in the sequencer as well. So either way, that's how you get something in the sequencer. Now, in terms of, by the way, like I'm moving pretty slow because I wanted to make this, interactive and true lesson. But I could tell you, you can spend countless amount of time creating animations. And I think in life, we all have different skills. I really like the vision, like my skill, I would say, is creating an environment, thinking of the story for the environment, and doing some combination of like decor and some blueprinting. That's what I'm good at. And even though I can edit videos for YouTube in DaVinci Resolve, I'm still kind of a somewhat noob with the sequencer. And when you create scenes, you're Steven Spielberg. I mean, you've got to think about what you want to create for your audience, and that's an entire art altogether. So maybe, if you ever team up with other people, find people who have different skills. If you're a little studio or just people want to collaborate. By the way, this is a chance to shout out. If you're not already in my Discord channel, join the Discord. Let me pull it up right now. And here's Discord. We've got a little channel in here. I put it that we were going to do the live lesson today. There's some really cool people in here. So if you haven't joined the E.R.I.C VTuber Discord channel, shout out. Get you in there. All right, time to bring this thing to life. So let's click and drag the Lambda object into the sequencer, and it puts it right here. When you start using the sequencer, the default is frames. The timeline is in frames. I wish I pointed this out in DaVinci Resolve, but in DaVinci Resolve, it's time. And if you want to change that, you easily can change the timeline to how you want to view this. Because I don't particularly like, if there's 30 frames per second, then at 120, which is right here, then that's 4 seconds, right? So it's just easier to think about the timeline differently if you do that by changing it to time. Okay. When you drag something in, I'm jumping around. When you drag something in, by default, it has the object. It has, if there's an animation, and there is with this one, and then it has transform. And transform is basically these three things that I was focusing on earlier: scaling an object, rotating an object, and moving an object. So location, rotation, and scale. And this ship, since it has the animation, we want to play the animation and we want it to land. How do we do that? Well, first, let's work on the location and teaching you guys a little bit about keys. So I'm going to move the ship up, and before I get to the animation, I'm moving the ship up, and at the start of this, where the playhead is, notice there's a green little bar right here, and then there's the playhead, and then there's a red bar at the right. That is the live area. That's basically the length of the video. You can go back, you can go forward, we can make it longer, but the playhead right now is sitting at the beginning. And so I'm going to set a keyframe where the location is. Now, because I don't need to specify specifically the X, Y, or Z, I want all of them. I just click boom, keyframes. You see that little triangle right there, or diamond right there, and that has set the location. Now, if I move the playhead out to the end, 4 seconds later, 120 frames, and I move this down, and then click on the location key again, you see these 3 bars that are added. Join Discord. Thank you, Captain Ron, also known as Yes. So watch what happens now as I go back. I'm just grabbing the playhead and going back. Down here in the lower left are your controls. So that's the beginning, that's the end. If I click to the beginning and click play, I've already animated the ship and it's landing. Booyah. But it's not animated. We're going to get to that. And that is the animation. Now, a couple things. Hopefully you guys are catching up. If I hit play, the animation plays because we set that, but the ship doesn't move. And why is that? Because when I'm playing the game, I've never even called this animation. So the only thing that's happening is the objects that are currently in the game get activated. And remember, we put this in here and we set it not to looping. And this can really confuse your mind a lot. And that's why I want to spend time that this sequencer does not reflect what's in the level. It's you're creating a movie from the objects that are in the level. From the beginning, do I need to restart UE5? My Unreal stuck at 74 preparing mesh distance field. Mine did too in the lower right. If you see that, mine is stuck at 83, but things seem to be working. So I don't know what's happening. There could be a compatibility issue with 5.4. I don't know, man. Well, you know what? I'll do it for you. Let me hit save. We'll come back to where we left off. I'll close it. I'll save everything. Let's open it back up and hope the whole thing doesn't go to hell in the handbasket. All right, so I'm just going to open up Unreal Engine, and it should remember the last project I was working on and get us right back to it. I didn't set it that way, I guess. Animation lesson 2. was the project I was working on. Let's see if that goes away. By the way, if Unreal crashes on you, don't take it personally. It crashes on all of us. It just does. Okay, that thing that was stuck in the right lower corner for me is gone, my brother. So it went away from me. If you wanted to take a moment and restart it, you can. All right, back where I was. So when I click play, the game is playing. By the way, the error is back that I got rid of before, so we could get rid of that if we want. But when I go to the animation sequence, it's different. Now, how the hell do I get back to my animation sequence? 2 ways to do that. You can go to the animations folder and you can double click it right here, but you can also go up to this menu and it knows what animations you have in the project. 2 different ways to do the same thing. I typically use this menu. It just feels like it gets me there faster than going through all the different folders. So open that up. So when this plays, again, this is not playing the game, it's playing the animation sequence. What we're going to do in this lesson is we're going to call this animation sequence from the game. But now it's time to make the ship animate. And I believe, I'm doing this live. I don't have any notes. I don't have anything open. I guess I should have been, maybe a little more prepared for you guys, but I may get stumped on some things. I'm going to click plus on the animation, and right there, I see the ship animation. It knows about it. So I'm going to choose it. And now when I go back, and I've selected the animation. Oop, I did that twice. I should not do that twice. I'm going to keyframe it right there. Let's see if it plays. Look at that. So cool. So easy. I mean, it's not. But it is. So it comes down, and we want it to end on the ground. So the keyframe that we did before is not going to work for us. So you're like, oh my God, what do I do? You don't panic. You just watch me. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to highlight my mouse over this dot and just hit the delete key. So I'm taking out the final location. And you want to be careful when you do this. You can also right click and say delete keys. So 2 ways to do the same thing, either selecting it. So we know the ship starts here, but we want it to land on the ground. So I'm going to go to the end of this segment, and I'm going to take the blue and drop it down to there. Let's see what that looks like. Oh, my bad. Okay, classic mistake. I brought it down thinking my job was done because I had put the playhead right there. But my job was not done because I needed to click on the key. So now I've said move from this location down to this location. And I'm a little bit too low. I think I was. No, we're good. I don't know why. I was worried. So here we go. Play. I'm hitting the space bar, by the way, to play it. It comes down and lands. I think that's pretty awesome. Do I have a clap sound that you guys can hear? A little cheer? There we go. A little cheer. I don't know if you can hear that. I'm giving a cheer for myself. So we've animated the ship coming down. I like to start off, different people do it different ways. I like to start off creating the different animations that are happening, and then I add the cameras. But you can add cameras first if you want to do that. Now, why do I need a camera when I'm looking at this? Because in an animation sequence, you're acting like a director of a movie, and you're setting up different cameras. So, let's see if we can find this. I'm going to segue for a second to see if you guys catch up. By the way, if you guys feel like I'm moving too slow or not teaching in a way that you want me to, feel free to just say in the chat, because I'm working in real time. Apple iPad intro. They came out with this new iPad. I think there was a video on it. And the reason, I'm checking the chat to see if you're like, Dave, go way faster. Let's see if this
we have a huge day of announcements.
Let's see. Well, it wasn't in that video.
And it's
Well, one of the things, man, I wish I had prepped for this. One of the things, yeah, one of the things they were showing in the introduction of the little promo the other day is how on the new iPad Pro, you can have people with phones in an environment, and then from the iPad, you can choose which camera to be shown and do live production. And when I saw that video, I'm like, that's what we do in Unreal. We add a bunch of cameras to the scene, and then we have a director choosing. It's just like a sports event. If you watch football and there's all those different cameras at an arena or stadium, and there's a producer going, go to the ground, go to this camera, go to this camera, go to this camera. That's what you're doing in Unreal. So the first thing we've created is our ship landing. And the next thing we need to do is put the cameras. So let's go ahead and do that. What I want when the ship lands is I want a camera to be right looking in front of it. This is the viewport. This is not a camera. I mean, it's a viewport camera, but it's not a camera in the scene. So we're going to add a camera to our scene. How do we do that again? Just like we always do. We go up here to the top and we move to cinematic, and we choose a cine camera actor. By the way, the term actor is an Unreal term that refers to really anything that's in your environment. And so we've just put this camera right here that's floating in space. This isn't an actor is in our scene, but these rocks are actors too. All of this stuff are actors. The camera's not pointing in the right place. And man, here's a great tip for you. Ready for this? I want to pretend to be the cameraman right now. I want to get my shot exactly where I want it. I can look at this little viewport right here and do this and do this. Yeah, cool. But this is cooler if I right click and say pilot the cine camera actor. And now I'm driving the camera using my mouse and keys, and I can line up exactly where I want the shot to be. And kind of just, do I want to be behind the bush? I can see it, and I just feel like I'm in the camera. And maybe I just want that camera like right there. You put your camera where you want, but maybe I just want it like boom, right there. Now, when you choose a cine camera, we're not going to cover this today because we're really just focusing on the sequencer, but over on the details area over here, you can choose what kind of camera you want this to be. It's kind of like you went to a camera store and you can grab whatever camera you want. You want to shoot something with IMAX 70 millimeter? Right now we're using a 16:9 digital film camera. Let's go IMAX. See how it changes it? So you can use different cameras. You can do a DLSR, which is like what I have, a little wider view. You can change the focal length. You can change the aperture. You can change the focus distance. You can do all this different stuff by tweaking your camera. And we'll do probably a little bit of this today, but I'm going to go back to digital film and it's right there. Now, if the object you want is not in focus, you want to make sure you're with your camera selected. You change that. I've now clicked on the ship, so I'm just going to type camera, go back to the cine camera, and I could change the focus distance if I want. Under focus settings, right here, notice I have a manual focus or the focus distance. I'm going to grab the eyedropper and I'm going to click on the ship so it's in focus. Do I usually drag my camera into the sequencer? I do, is the question in chat, and I will be doing that in just a minute. But I'm putting the camera right there where I want it, and now I'm going to drag, to your point, the camera into my sequencer. And that is my camera shot. Now, two things have happened. not only has the camera actor been added to my sequencer, but the camera cuts up here has been added as well. And that's why I was showing you, like in DaVinci Resolve where it was stacked, what the camera cut does is when I have multiple cameras, this timeline right here will show what is in the viewport at that particular time. Right now, the entire time is the ship landing. So let's go ahead and hit back and hit play, and you'll see at the end, the ship will come into view and land. Super cool. That is that camera. Now, naming everything is really super helpful. So I'm going to go to the top right, and I'm going to right click with the camera selected and choose rename. And I'll say this is ship POV, and I'll still use the word camera. So POV for point of view. This is the ship POV camera because I'm going to use a couple different cameras. Play it again. The ship comes down into view. Now, I said earlier that you should think about a back lot. Because I have a starting point and an ending point of where the location of the ship is, the ship in my environment can be somewhere completely different. So I'm going to close the sequencer for right now. And if you'll notice, the ship is right there. Let's say I don't want anybody to see this ship, and I'm going to just raise it up. By the way, if you hold down the shift key when you move something, it moves the viewport, and I'm going to shove it way up here in the sky. But maybe it's behind a mountain. It's wherever you need it to be. And that way, when I click on play level, notice I don't see the ship. I don't see the ship anywhere. I've moved it so high in the sky. But I think you'd probably tuck it like behind a mountain range or something like that. The reason for doing this, as I'm saying, is if you want to call a sequence in your game, but you don't want those objects to be seen during another part of the game, you got to hide them somewhere else. And that's what I've done. Going to check the chat. Yes, Chimera. Your question is or comment is, so pretty much people just add multiple camera setups in a sequence to create the cinematic. That's exactly what they do. And you might create a few different sequences and then take it to DaVinci Resolve and do some fancy work in DaVinci Resolve, but we're going to do this in-game. So we now have that ship, and I'm playing the game, and if I run out, I'm just using WSAND. There's no ship. Where's my ship? It's not arriving, but I need a ship. So I'm going to hit escape, and I'm going to go back to my animation sequence. Remember I taught you earlier, you can go to the folder and open it up. There it is. So there's my animation sequence. We have no music. And man, watch what a difference it makes when we have music. So I'm going to pull up my browser. And open up a new tab. And I'm going to Epidemic Sound. I have a subscription to it. And let's see if I log in. We're all good. Which one did I do now? I think I did it under David Lewis, my real name. Yeah. So they've got really good music in here. And what I did is I typed like Imperial March for searching. And I found this one right here. Let's see if you guys can hear it. Let me know in the chat. You guys hear that? So I downloaded that. I did the full mix, full MP3. And I want to bring it into my project. Yeah, cool. You guys can hear the music. So right here is that file. I'm going to go back over to my content browser. And because we're using custom music, I had made a folder for it. And I just click and drag it into my project. And now that's in my locker. Okay, so it's been added to the Unreal project, but it's not in the scene. I don't need to drag the music into the scene. Remember I said like everything to create an animation sequence you need to have in your level? Well, not audio. Okay, so there's always exceptions to the rule. So if I go back to the sequencer right here, and by the way, let me give you a little tutorial on these things. So this can get really cluttered over here. These little triangles allow you to expand or collapse, and then you can click and drag and stack them wherever you want. So I'll find like if I have a bunch of stuff, it is, this can get pretty long and needs to scroll. So I typically move up what I am working on to the top. In DaVinci Resolve, that would have me thinking like, wow, those are layers, and that would be the thing that the topmost layer is the thing people see. Not true. In Unreal, what people see is what is playing in camera cuts. All right, these are just all part of the sequence. So now I want to add the music. How do I add music? Since the music is not over here in the top right, how do I add the music into this environment? I choose the add button. And I want to add an audio track. And it says it is recommended to use the audio clock as the clock source when working with audio tracks and sequencer for improved synchronization between animation and audio. Would you like to switch the clock source now? I'm going to say yes. And it does that. And now here's my audio, but I don't have the audio that I want. So I go over here to plus. And notice it shows me the music that I have imported, which is the first-person shooter. Remember I said earlier in the video, now it's in here, by the way. Let me just play it. There you go. Really cool. My camera was a little off. I need to show you that because I would screw you up because I bet you've done that. Remember I was piloting the camera? I moved the camera and I need it back to there. To get out of piloting the camera, over here in the top left, that's where I eject myself out of the camera. So now if I click the camera cut, it's using camera 1. Let's play the music and I have the right view now. If that does not make sense in the chat, let me know. Now, the first problem we have is that the music is way longer than the completed animation. And so I can drag the music over to the left and start the music a little bit earlier. Okay, and that's our opening scene because we're going to add more scenes. All right. How are you guys doing? Following along okay? So let's add another camera. Where do I want my next camera? I want this camera to be right. I think I want this camera to be right here. It's all, personal preference. I want a camera that's right here. And so let me just add a new camera. Go to Cinematic under Add and choose Cinecamera Actor. And I'm going to pilot that camera by right-clicking on it and choose Pilot Camera. And drive myself over to where I liked that shot. Oop, other side. I think right here. And that's what I was saying, like with these cameras settings over here, it's nice because this camera could be a different type of camera. Now, I don't know when they shoot movies if they actually do stuff like that. But if I go to like, a super, that didn't change it. Let me go to, I think I would need to do that earlier on. Yeah. We'll keep that as where its property is. Probably need to do that earlier. All right, Dave, you're caught up. Cool. So now that I have this new camera right here, I'm going to rename it before I bring it in. and I'll call this wide shot camera. Whatever you want to call it, it's up to you. But we'll go with wide shot camera. And now I'm going to drag this into the sequencer. Now I dragged it in, but I don't want to use that camera until later. Oh, interesting. Okay, now that I've dragged it in, I think it is changing the camera type. No, maybe not. Let's see. Yeah, it is. Okay, it's because I hadn't pulled it in. So the camera I'm going to stick with this is the 16:9 digital film. And I'm still piloting the camera. I want that scene right there. And I'm just going to pan to the right. And I'm going to give you guys a really cool tip in a second. But that's where I want my camera to be. So let's move the playhead to the end. Now we don't have enough timeline because there's the red arrow. So just take it and drag it out. And since we were doing the math, I'm going to do this at another 120 seconds. By the way, I'm holding down control and rolling my mouse back. So I'm going to go out to 240 seconds. Because at 240, I've added another roughly 4 seconds to my timeline. Now with my playhead right here, I'm going to take this new wide shot camera and I'm going to click on the transform and place that into the scene. Then I'm going to move the playhead over to my right because now the door's coming down. And I'm going to just, still piloting my camera, I'm going to move the camera over a little bit. And then I'm going to click another transform keyframe so that my camera moves. So the ship lands, hitting space, and then the camera starts moving. Okay. And I think we need that. I think we'll go out. So now I want to go just a little bit further. I can drag it out. Okay. Let's get our playhead a little bit longer. So now we've got basically two scenes. And this is when I now have to introduce you to these little icons right here to lock the viewport. When you click on camera cut, that's the main track. That's what the audience will see. When you click on this camera, then that's that camera, which is the same camera right now. But when I go to this one, it's my second camera. But what the audience sees is in the top. So let's say in this first scene, I want it to be to right here, and then we move out. So right there, I need a new camera cut. And so I just come to the plus, and I'm going to choose the wide shot camera. And so, does that make sense? That my camera cut has started with camera 1, and then where my playhead was when I added camera 2, it moves it. So now if I click on the icon, you got to click on camera cut if you want to see it all. Now I'm watching the camera cut camera, which is the producer, if you will. And when I click play, I'll hear the audio, and then I'll see both cameras and the animation. Okay. And I noticed that the ship animation is looping, and we don't want that. So we're going to have to stop the animation. Okay. So we're making good progress. We've got our scene. Now we need the stormtrooper to appear. And I'm winging this, guys. I'm just going to bring in that character. Let's go back to the content browser, go to custom assets, and scroll down to where I brought in the stormtrooper. Here's the skeleton. When I drag him in, he is laying on his back, practicing yoga. I don't know what that guy's doing. So I'm going to rotate him up 90 degrees, and I will rotate him facing where my player's going to be. And then I just hit the N key and drops him to the ground. And remember, this is the arrival he's meeting. It's interesting. I've had this, and I don't know if it's a bug, but like I'm trying to move my viewport and it's locked. And I've had this happen, and I wonder if this is now a new bug in Unreal. I'm going to click save. I'm going to click play. Yeah, I don't know why it does this. I don't like it. I cannot actually move in there. So if you guys are having that problem, I'm just going to close Unreal, save everything, open it back up. And I think this is a bug. Let me know in the chat if you guys ever run into that where you're trying to control the viewport and you can't. Because if you notice when I open it right now, it'll work fine. And I think this happened when I imported that character in kind of like a pre-run this morning. Because see, now I can move. And I have no idea why I couldn't move. All right, because I was just trying to move him around. Now we want him to show up in our sequence. So let's go back to our animation sequence. Remember I said I like to go up here and pull it, and there's the arrival. So when we get to there, I think we want him to appear. Let's go to camera cut. Right there, okay? So I'm going to now shorten the pan to this frame right here, and I'm going to add a new character for him to appear. So let's put him in position like he just came out of the ship. And let's add a new camera. So I will choose up from the menu. Hopefully by this time things are making sense. Go to cinematic, add a new cine camera. I want to change the name so I don't forget what it's called. And I will call this the greeting camera. And I'm going to right click on it and pilot it. And there's our ship. There he is. I can see if he's in the right place, and he's not. Let's make this camera right here. And let's take him and move him out just a little bit. Now, it'd be a really long tutorial, but it would be cool to animate him and have him walk down and then greet that way. But I'm just going to use the trickery of camera angles, and I'm going to now introduce him to the scene by changing the camera. By the way, if you wanted him to walk down, if you guys want to continue with your lesson, the site that I use, I showed you my music site, is Mixamo. Mixamo is owned by Adobe. And I'm going to log in. And you've got all these animations that you can get for free. So this guy, actually, I've used him before in another video animation sequence I made. But you could grab a particular animation, like, I mean, walking is built in to Unreal, but I'll type walking. And so, like, you could find one that you kind of like of him walking, this guy right here. You could upload that model of the stormtrooper and then add this walking animation to it and have him actually walk out. That would be cool. So that's Mixamo. Coded particles. Yes, I love it. It's good stuff. And I do like what the retargeting that they did in 5.4 to add animations to objects or actors, if you will, skeletons, is a hell of a lot easier. Haven't played with it a lot in 5.4, but it was improved. All right, so let's add our last camera, the greeting camera. I'm going to drag it in to my sequencer. And I'm going to take that camera figure out exactly where I want it. I'm thinking because I'm going to add my character facing him. I think like the little rock, little thing right here. Here's a good opportunity to say, like, over on the right, if I click the focus and I change the focus to the rock would be out of focus. It would be really cool to start with the focus on the rock and your player character's right there, and then switch the focus to him, like that scene reveal. I think that would be super cool. You know what? Hell, I'll try it. What the heck? So let's focus on the rock. And then down here, I've opened up the camera. It says manual focus settings. I'm going to put it there. But then when it's way out here, maybe a little bit, few frames, I'm going to now focus on him. And I'm going to add a new focus point. Let's see how that looks. Oh, that's so cinematic. That's just pretty, right? Happens right at the right time. We do need to kill that animation, but I will get to it. All right, so that is that camera. Now, we haven't introduced this camera yet, and I don't think we've introduced our guy yet. So right here, when we do the cutscene, I'm going to pull this out a little bit longer. I want the floor to be down fully. I've moved that camera out. So now I'm going to add another cutscene. So I go to camera cuts, I click on plus, and I'm choosing the greeting camera. So now, check it out. I'll click the icon for camera cuts. I want the director's camera. Wow. All right. But we see him here. And that's because we haven't set his location. And what we want to do right now is get this guy out of the way. So I'm going to do that later. First, I want him to be right here. So I'm thinking in reverse, and I'm thinking out loud to you guys. In that, I don't want him in the wide shot. I do want him in this shot right here. Right there on the cut, I want him to be there. So I am going to add him into my scene. I'm looking, and I just realized, I never even dragged him in. So let's get the Stormtrooper and his UE4 Stormtrooper. So I just did the search box, and I found him, and I'm dragging him into my scene. And that's where I want him. This is where if, you had walking animation, we'd add that animation level. But for the transform, I'm just going to put him right there. So now he shows up at that location in space. And I don't ever need him to change location. He's just going to stand there while my character kind of looks at him. But now that I've done that, that's when I can go back and let me just click save. And by the way, there's a save right here. This save icon saves the animation sequence, where this saves all the objects that I've brought in, like the metadata. So I don't want him in my scene. So I'm going to go and close the sequencer. And so there he is. Let's just take him with the sequencer closed, and I'm going to bring him way up to the ship. And the reason I'm doing this, remember, is I just want this stuff to be out of my scene. So this is my backlot, my Disney backlot of the stuff that I'm using. So now when I go back to my sequencer and I open it up, I'm going to click on camera cut for the director. Why is he there? We don't want him there. Did I screw that up? Oh, wait a second. I must have introduced him too early. Yeah, okay. So UE Stormtrooper right here. The transform, we don't want him in this long. Uh-oh, may have got myself in trouble. I want him to be here, but I don't want him to be earlier. What's a way that I can do that? I mean, I can make him invisible, but that's kind of a hack. So right here, if you do plus, you can change whether the actor is hidden in the game or not, and set that to true or false. That's one way to do it. But I kind of want to do it the right way, and I'm a little stumped, so bear with me. Why is he showing up earlier? I just deleted him, is what I did. I deleted the transfer. I'm going to undo that. Man. So I want him out of the scene. And the reason he's there is because the transform is, I think the location is. Damn it. Let me kill him. He's going bye-bye. We'll do this again. So in the sequencer, Stormtrooper, drag him down in here. But I don't want him at that location until there. So with the Stormtrooper selected, let's leave the sequencer. Let's take him, drop him down, just hit end. Oh, that's where I want him. Okay. I think I gotta go back up and get him again. Well, I'm a tiny bit stumped. Glad I'll be able to edit this and post video, but I feel bad for you guys, but you're probably playing around and having a good time. I need him to show up right here. And let me go to my content browser, close the sequence. And this location, let's look at the general. That location is right there. So what's the best way to do this? What I'm trying to do is, right, I'm trying to keep him out of the scene and then trigger the animation once he comes. I'm going to do this. I'm going to come back to it, because for those of you that want to see the next thing on how to trigger, I want to get to that, and then I'll fix this part of the final animation. So I'm going to open up my animation sequencer again. And what I want to teach you guys now is how to play that how to trigger this sequence to work. So we, right now, just starting from the beginning, looks like this. Oh, let me go to the director cut. Looks like this. Right there, we want him to show up. All right. So that's what we want so far in our project, the animation. If you notice right here, here's the animation bar. What I did is I expand the lambda shuttle, and you see the animation bar right there. I'm going to pull it back. And if you look, you'll see little marks. There's a little mark right here. That's where the animation is complete. And so if you extend it beyond that line, then it will loop. Oops. So I just want to pull it back to right there. And now when the camera goes, that animation won't play anymore and it will just stay right there. Oh, I went a little too far with my animation. So if you notice, it's resetting. I want to end at this frame. So I need to set that to be like the final frame. All right, let's add our trigger, shall we? So now that we've got our sequence, I'm going to click save, and might as well save the whole project. I'm going to close this. And the way that we're going to do things is we're going to click on play, and my character, see, that's why I don't want him there, because he's not supposed to be there. I'm going to walk my character down, and when I get right here, I want to trigger that animation sequence to play. Like I was just coming out to greet the ship. Maybe I knew it was coming, and I want it to play. Well, how do I do that? I'm going to hit escape. And the way that I'm going to do that is I'm going to add into my environment, in the volumes area, there's a trigger volume. And if you guys have been watching my series on building VR environments, you saw me create a trigger box that played audio and played video inside the VR environment. And I'm going to do the same trick. So here's my box right here. I want to make sure it's big enough. We want the player to walk to this area right when they get in front of the camera, because we want them, see, this is the shot right there. We want this trigger to be right in front. So now I'm just going to make it wider in case I walk to a different place. Walking down the road, and along comes a gigantic spaceship. All right, cool. That we're going to use to trigger. So we've been adding objects into our environment. We created a sequence, and now we're going to create a blueprint. And we're going to create a blueprint for the level, and this blueprint is going to trigger upon me entering that volume. So with the volume selected, I'm just going to drag this into my blueprint. Sorry. I'm going to, with that selected, I'm going to right click, and I'm going to use this context sensitive menu instead of dragging it in. Sorry, guys. I'm bummed about my stormtrooper showing up, so it's like caught in my head that he's there, but we'll get to him. I'm just going to expand this and add collision and say add on actor begin overlap, meaning that when the actor steps into that box, trigger the event. Same thing like I did in my VR tutorial. And what we're going to do is play a sequence. So I'm going to right click and type play sequence. It says create level sequence player. We'll choose that. Hook it up. And then choose the arrival sequence. Let's see if that was the right node. So I'm going to click play. Whoops. Go here. Walk out. Nope. Wrong node. I'm switching projects for a second. This is what we're building, are these nodes right here. And we're going to create the level sequence player right there. And I need to add the play function. So we created it and then we play it. So this is creating it, basically create the player technology. And then the answer is, well, which one are you going to play? And it's this one. So let me just, what I do is when I create projects where I have these little recipes, if you will, this is like my recipe book, I'll just screen cap that. And then I'll actually put that in my Microsoft Word, like documentation later on. I'm going to go back up and open up my other project because you can't remember how to do all these things all the time. At least I can. If you can, bravo. We're not going to save that part. So I'm opening the project back up so I can finish building this for you. And let's go to our level blueprint. And what I needed to add were some new additional nodes. So we've created the level sequence player. We chose the arrival. Now off of here, I want to do play. So I'm going to just drag out and choose play. And it says the target is a movie scene sequence. Well, which sequence? Can we just drag this over to here? No. Yes, we can. And so all I did was drag the blue line over to the target. So I'm saying the out actor, the thing that I grabbed right here, the level sequence, I want to choose that property and send it along into the player. And that is what we need to do. We click on compile. We click on save. Close it. And I'm going to, can I take this into the chat and copy and paste this for you guys? No. Bummer. Can you add images in chat? No, but I'll make it available in the final video. So now when I click play, everything should work where I run down here, approach him, and the animation starts. Whoa, what's happening there? I'm so nervous. I can still control my character. So one of the things you could do in your blueprint is remove keyboard input so that you couldn't do that anymore and he would just stay right there. We want a stormtrooper to be there. So as soon as I enter that box, the animation plays. And of course, I could set a variable that says, you know, once that's been done, don't do it again. I could, once that's been done, I could delete this. I could destroy this from the level. There's a command that you can destroy it. That would prevent it from ever triggering again. So there's lots of tricks of the trade to say, okay, once I've played that, I don't want it to play again. Now, again, we are playing an in-scene cinematic where we've created a game or we've created some environment. We walk up to it and we want the animation to occur. But let's say you don't want this for a game or VR. You actually want a video for it. If I open up my sequence player, one of the things I have available to me is a render button right here. So I can click on this render button, give the file a name like The Arrival, and just say capture the movie. And here it goes. And that animation sequence happens with the focus and everything like that. And then I turn off the capture when it finishes it. And that's actually created a file for me in Unreal Projects, probably in Animation Lesson. Oh, I have to look at where I saved that. Oh, it's on OneDrive. It's there. Okay. So you have this now file in a AVI format, and you could take that to DaVinci Resolve and do whatever you want. So what a lot of people do with Unreal and what we're doing here in the lesson is they'll create something really cool, and that's what they wanted to do, was to make a movie of it. They don't want to make a video game. They don't They're not using it for that. They're using Unreal for production and to make a movie, maybe for TikTok or YouTube or what have you. And you certainly can. What I tried to do in this lesson is kind of show you both. I was showing you not only can you make an in-game cutscene, but you could render that out. Now, I definitely got stumped on my Stormtrooper, which I definitely want to come back to because that's going to bother me all day. But some really key things to remember, and I'll point out one other thing that's essential in this is, the movement of things. You've got your camera cut scene, and what the camera cut and what the media player was all of these three things. By the way, when you output your video, if you want the audio to go along with it, I think you got to choose that in the settings to make sure that the audio goes along with the file. Right here, audio output format, no audio, so you can choose it how you're going to do it. Candidly, if I was making something really cool for like a TikTok or YouTube video, I wouldn't even put the audio in here. I would do all the audio work in DaVinci Resolve or my video editor rather than trying to time it and get everything here. I just think it's easier there, but you can do that here. The thing that I want to show you is when the ship was coming in, let's get back to the ship. The Lambda shuttle right here. And there it is. This graph right here, show the animation keys in the curve editor. This is something that you're going to want to learn as kind of like advanced animation sequencing. What these are is how the object moves as it's animating. What you're seeing right here is pretty linear. So let me go to the first camera, which is our ship point of view. You see where the ship is coming in? The speed of that coming down is pretty linear, meaning that it doesn't, like if you think about how a car drives, when you step on the gas, it starts off slow and then it gets up to speed, and when you brake, it slows down. It's a bell curve. And this is where you can adjust the curves of those objects. So with the camera kind of coming down to the ground, it happens so fast that I don't think it needs it. Like you're looking at this. But you might want to, like right here, slow it down and slow that. Because the animation was a certain length and it was pretty short, that's how long I did it. Let's back that up a little bit. And so basically what I'm saying is like thinking about how you animate objects in this environment is really key, because the brain and the eye knows whether something looks real or not. And so if you ever need to adjust the speed in which something's happening, like this ship, you would use the curve here to add these different points. And that would help you make the adjustments. It's really advanced and you can do all of these different things. Maybe I'll get to that and put a tutorial together that shows that. But if that's what you need, feel free to play around with that. Let me open up my other project that I was working on before I built this one with you guys. I'm going to not save that. Kind of show you this animation sequence because it came out pretty good. Excuse me. We have horrible allergies, California. So walk down. That's what this one looks like. A little higher camera, floating in, ship lands, added a little explosion sound. There's our guy. That's what I was shooting for, but I got stuck on the Stormtrooper. And then a little close-in camera showing the two of them meeting. So it's art, have at it, do what you want. And I really hope this, this is I've never streamed live before. I always record all this stuff. And when you get to record, you get to figure things out and then solve them before you show the world that you're stumped on something, as we all get. But I'd rather do it real. And, literally now I can take this recording and do some editing and fix some of the things that I want to do and put out a nice, cleaner tutorial. But I appreciate, 10 of you spending time with me today going through this. Really, really cool. Don't forget to join the Discord. I don't know if any, I think a couple of you, some familiar names, wanted to show you guys something. Watch my other video on the VR environment. I'm going to open that up because there was something that I didn't do for all of you. Let's see, is it this one? I got to get to 5.4. I have put the museum in 5.4 now. What I wanted to show you is in this VR environment, I created a blueprint that when you walk up to the wall, the animation happens. In this case, when you walk up to this trigger volume right here, this video plays. And in the blueprint, I wanted to just show you, well, I have a couple of you here, that really what you want to do is create the blueprint to, you know, if when you walk out of it, you want it to stop. I didn't show how to do that. So I'm going to ask the chat if any of you need me to show you how to do that, or if you figure that out on how to get it to stop playing. Because when the video plays right now, it says on begin overlap, played. Any of you? Going once, going twice? You guys are playing around. I know you're having fun with your cinematics. Some of the things that I did on my channel, which if you haven't seen before, I'll open up some fun cinematics. I made a short that did really, really well. And let me show you what these were. Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. So like in this short, I did a little shout out to 2001 Space Odyssey. Hey, buddy, come on over here. And I just wanted to show you this. Like, there's a metahuman. That was me. And watch this. Oh, cool suit. Whoa, do you hear that? That is a loud freaking noise. You all right, buddy? You look like you're in a lot of pain. Whoa, what is that thing flying overhead? It's like a big, gigantic rectangle. Oh, some music. Cool. Wow. Man, you okay? Get up. Holy shit, what is this thing? Oh, man. So that was all done using Sequencer. And let me just go back. I don't know if you can with a short. But what you saw was animation from Mixamo, the Mixamo character. You saw that monolith kind of flying in, but then you saw it rotate and come down. And so that was a fun one to create. And that was, you know, a way for me to kind of sharpen my saw again on the animation sequencer. You know, it's not my strong suit. I know enough to be dangerous. And what I am going to now work on as I continue to work on this VR museum is my vision for this, and some of the other lessons coming up that I'm going to be teaching is, and when you start this, I'm going to teach you guys how to make a menu system. And I have a basic menu system in here right now, but I'm really going to blow that out so you guys can create, you know, better VR menus. And one of the menu items that I want to create is a museum tour. And when you click that, it will play an animation sequence that will take you through the museum. So I want to teach someone like, oh, you can walk up to a picture and you can play audio about it, or you can walk up to a video and do that, and here's how to do it. So as I build the museum some more, I want this way like to create a tour, and that would be, you know, a cinematic that's not a recorded video, but it's an actual one. So now that you guys have learned this, it's going to be so easy, right, for me to create a level sequence, and we'll call this like show and tell. Custom animation, we'll put it in that. And to add a camera, just like we were doing under cinematic, put that camera where we want. Maybe it's just right there. Drag that camera into our sequencer. Put a transform node that shows it's right there. And then out here, while I'm piloting the camera, slide across the floor and add another point right there. And there you have it. So like there's a little pan animation sequence. And so you can imagine I can easily put a few different cameras in my museum and give them a tour. And then I could create a little announcement like, welcome to the such and such museum. Here's a place where you can explore art from all over the world. And as you approach that art, you can, click on the speaker icon to hear a little bit about that. Some of the art has live video. And if you want to play the video, you do this. So I can create a whole little walkthrough tutorial for the museum. And I will get to that and give that to you guys. And I really want to thank you guys for taking this morning and spending time with me during this live session. My first. I hope I didn't embarrass myself too much, but now I've got a recorded file. I'm going to stop the recording right now and edit that up someday and try to get to that this week or soon and make a cleaner version. When I do finish the rest of the tutorial, I'll make sure that all the stuff that I wanted to get done will get done, like where my stormtrooper should have been and all that. But Code of Particles, really thank you for hanging out. And Dave, I hope you're on your way now, on your Unreal journey and looking to just the incredible power this application has. I've got a lot of videos on my channel, basic Unreal stuff, but I'm definitely focused a lot on VR these days because I think building some of these experiences are really, really great. I'm going to shut down the stream, get back on camera and look at you guys and say thank you so much again. Have a wonderful rest of your week. Have a great weekend. And for, I think it was, who was it? It was one of you likes to play some Call of Duty. Maybe I'll see you in the war zone. All right. It's going to do it. We'll catch you guys on the next episode. Take care.